The Three Questions, adapted for intensive listening from the original story by Leo Tolstoy. One day, a king asked himself three important questions. What is the right time to act? Who are the right people to listen to? And what is the most important thing a person can do? The king believed that if he knew the answers to these three questions, he would never make a wrong decision. He would never fail, no matter what he chose to do. So he announced throughout his kingdom that he would give a great reward to anyone who could answer them. Before long, wise and learned people arrived from every corner of the kingdom. Each of them believed they had the answer. But there was one problem. No one agreed. Some believed that the right time to act could be planned in advance. They said the king should create a careful plan and follow it faithfully. Others disagreed. They argued that life was too unpredictable. Instead of following a strict plan, they said the king should pay close attention to what was happening around him and do whatever seemed most necessary at that moment. Some believed that no one person could make every decision alone. They advised the king to rely on a council of wise men. Others thought that wouldn't help either. Some decisions, they said, had to be made immediately. Since no one could know the future, they believed that only magicians would tell the right time to act. The answers to the king's second question were just as different. Some said his counselors were the most important people. Others chose priests. Some believed doctors were the most valuable. Others insisted that warriors mattered most. The third question brought even more disagreement. Some believed that gaining knowledge was life's greatest purpose. Others said success in battle was the highest goal. And some believed that nothing was more important than worshipping God. The king listened carefully to every answer, but every answer was different. None of them satisfied him. So he decided to seek the advice of a hermit who was famous throughout the kingdom for his wisdom. The hermit lived alone in a small hut deep in the forest. People throughout the kingdom respected him for his wisdom. He never left the forest, and he welcomed only ordinary people. Kings and nobles did not usually visit him. So the king decided to go alone. He took off his royal clothes and dressed like a common man. Before reaching the hermit's hut, he got off his horse and left his bodyguards behind. The rest of the journey he walked alone. When he arrived, he found the old hermit digging the ground in front of his hut. The hermit looked up, greeted the king with a quiet nod, and continued digging. He looked frail and weak. Each time he pushed his spade into the ground and turned the soil, he stopped for a moment to catch his breath. The king walked over to him. "Wise hermit," he said, "I have come to ask you three questions. How can I know the right time to act? Who are the people I should listen to the most? And what is the most important thing I should do?" The hermit listened, but he said nothing. Instead, he spat on his hands and continued digging. After watching him struggle for a few moments, the king said, "You look tired. Let me dig for a while." "Thank you," said the hermit. He handed the spade to the king and sat down on the ground. The king began digging. He dug one garden bed, then another. When he finally stopped, he looked at the hermit again. "Will you answer my questions now?" he asked. The hermit slowly stood up and reached out for the spade. "Now you should rest," he said. "Let me work for a while." But the king did not give him the spade. Instead, he continued digging. 1 hour passed, then another. As the sun began to sink behind the trees, the king pushed the spade into the ground and said, "Wise hermit, I came here seeking answers. If you cannot answer my questions, please tell me, and I will return home." Before the hermit could reply, he turned his head toward the forest. "Look," he said quietly, "someone is coming." The king turned around. A bearded man came running out of the trees. He was holding his hands tightly against his stomach. Blood was flowing between his fingers. The man stumbled toward the king and the hermit. Then he collapsed onto the ground. He was barely conscious. The king and the hermit quickly opened his clothing and saw a deep wound in his stomach. Without wasting a moment, the king knelt beside him. He washed the wound as carefully as he could and wrapped it with his own handkerchief and a towel the hermit gave him. But the bleeding would not stop. Again and again the king removed the blood-soaked bandage, cleaned the wound, and wrapped it once more. At last, the bleeding slowed. Then it stopped. The wounded man slowly opened his eyes. In a weak voice, he asked for some water. The king brought him fresh water and helped him drink. By then, the sun had disappeared behind the trees, and the evening air had turned cool. With the hermit's help, the king carried the wounded man into the hut and laid him on the bed. The man closed his eyes and fell asleep. The king was exhausted. He had walked a long distance, worked in the garden for hours, and spent the rest of the evening caring for a stranger. Too tired to go any further, he sat down at the doorway of the hut. Within moments, he was asleep. He slept soundly through the short summer night. The next morning, the king opened his eyes. For a few moments, he could not remember where he was. Then he noticed the bearded man lying on the bed looking at him. The man's eyes were open. He seemed to be waiting for the king to wake up. As soon as their eyes met, the man spoke. "Forgive me," he said softly. The king looked at him in surprise. "I don't know you," he replied. "There is nothing for me to forgive." "But I know you," the man said. "I am your enemy. I swore that I would take revenge on you because you executed my brother and took away my property. I heard that you were coming here alone to visit the hermit. I planned to attack you on your way home, but you never returned. So I left my hiding place to look for you. Instead, I met your bodyguards. They recognized me and attacked me. I managed to escape. But I would have died from my wound if you had not saved my life." The man paused for a moment. Then he continued, "I came here to kill you, but instead you saved me. If I live, I will serve you faithfully for the rest of my life, and I will ask my sons to do the same. Please forgive me." The king looked at the wounded man with compassion. "There is nothing to forgive," he said. "I gladly forgive you, and I will return your property. I will also send my servants and my doctor to care for you until you have fully recovered." The wounded man was filled with gratitude. The man who had come to kill the king was leaving as his most loyal friend. The king stepped outside the hut. The hermit was planting seeds in the ground where the king had dug the day before. The king walked over to him. "Before I leave," he said, "please answer my questions." The hermit looked up. "You have already been answered," he said. The king looked at him in confusion. "I don't understand." The hermit smiled gently. "If you had not felt sorry for my weakness yesterday and stopped to help me, you would have left this place before the wounded man arrived. He would have attacked you on your way home, and you would have regretted not staying here. So the most important time was the time you spent helping me. And I was the most important person. The most important thing was that you showed kindness to me." The king listened silently. The hermit continued. Later, when the wounded man came running out of the forest, he became the most important person. If you had not cared for his wound, he would have died before making peace with you. So the most important time was the time you spent caring for him. And the most important thing was to help him. The hermit paused for a moment. Then he said, "Remember this. There is only one time that truly matters. It is now. The present is the only time we have any power to act. The most important person is the person who is with you, for no one knows whether they will ever meet anyone else. And the most important thing you can do is to do good for that person. That is why we are here." The king thanked the hermit. Then he quietly began his journey home. He had come looking for 3 answers. Instead, he had discovered a new way to live.